Welcome back to another episode of Warren Cali. In this episode, I will detail the story of a Mansfield Gangster Crip named Looney. Looney was born Ronald Barron around 1969. Looney grew up a kid who had dreams of becoming a professional baseball player, but with how life works, his circumstances became completely different. By the 80s, Los Angeles was a war zone, with established and new gangs being formed all over Los Angeles County. Looney grew up on the west side of Los Angeles, where many gangs were being formed or were already formed, like the Playboy Gangster Crips, the Schoolyard Crips, the Marvin Gangster Crips, the Venice Showlines, and the Mansfield Gangster Crips, among many others. Looney would join the Mansfield Gangster Crips with him living and growing up in that area. Originally, the Mansfield started off as the Mansfield Hustlers and later became Crips in the 80s. They would later go to war with several gangs. Looney was an early member of the Mansfields and was around during many pivotal moments of Mansfield history. He also was fully involved in the Mansfields, building their name in the gang world and their reputation early on. Looney was living a wild life, getting into altercations with other gangs, including fights and shootouts, and going to juvenile camp for different things, and also having a kid at an early age. But Looney's life would take a turn for the worse when he was sent to prison for attempted murder. But prison didn't make him change his life, and after his eventual release, he returned back to the same lifestyle. But after a while, being back on the streets and seeing how everything was the same and nothing changed, from his friends and family going to jail and even dying, he didn't want that life anymore. He knew it was time to change, and Looney would change for the better, of him and everyone around him. Looney had years in the streets and in prison, and this led to him getting involved in NFL legend Jim Brown's American program. The program is an empowerment organization that provides individuals with tools necessary to make transitions, and that's what Looney did. For over a decade, Looney was one of the most dedicated community activists working in gang intervention in Los Angeles. Looney used his own experiences in life to inspire and motivate others to make change in their lives. It was said that Looney was a pillar in the gang outreach community that became increasingly relied upon in Los Angeles. Not to mention, Looney and several other OGs helped stop a lot of violence in the neighborhoods. Much of Looney's work was in schools like Horace Mann Middle School, Thurgood Marshall Charter High School, and others. Looney and others taught their programs 60-hour curriculum, which focused on responsibility, self-determination, the development of community support systems, and stopping the allure of gangs, drugs, and alcohol. Looney also went to many juvenile camps and detention centers and talked to many kids about their life choices, because he was once in their shoes. A civil rights attorney would once say about Looney, "There are a lot of con artists who claim to be gang intervention, but Looney was one of the genuine ones. He was dedicated and he was trusted by everyone. That's a pretty rare status." But with all the good he did and was doing, Looney's story would end in tragedy. On February 7, 2010, at around 9 p.m., Looney was on the 5000 block of West Pico Boulevard at a bar in his neighborhood. The Super Bowl just ended and he was going home with his girlfriend. This is when investigators believed that Looney confronted a suspect who he believed was a tagger spray painting walls in the property of the area of Pico and Sycamore Street. During a brief discussion in the middle of Pico, Looney would tell the 16-year-old tagger, "We don't do that over here. We keep our community clean." But that wouldn't sit well with the team. The suspect pulled out a gun and shot Looney in the chest and also the head. Looney laid in the street after the shooting and he tried to get back up but fell back to the ground, where he bled out his mouth and was motionless. Looney was later transported to a local hospital and pronounced dead from his injuries the next morning. Homicide and gang detectives arrested a suspect in connection with the murder shortly after. The suspect was a minor at the time, so his name wasn't released. He was known as a tagger in the area and acted alone. The graffiti he wrote on the wall said Westside CAE, which meant catching all enemies. The 16-year-old that shot Looney was named Mark. Mark was caught off footage from a nearby business. The footage appeared to show a gunman wearing dark clothing and arguing with Looney in front of numerous witnesses. Looney's death was a heavy loss for his and surrounding Los Angeles communities. He turned around hardcore gang members, set an executive director of Project Cry No More, a Compton-based group that counseled mothers of children killed in gang violence. Fear about violence and retaliation for Looney's killing led to the mayor's office calling gang intervention meetings to stop it. An emotional candlelight was held the next night at the scene of the killing. At his trial for killing Looney, the once 16-year-old Mark would speak. He would say, "As you guys all know, the incident occurred when I was 16. That doesn't make an excuse for my decision, and I'd like to say I'm sorry. First of all, I'm sorry for the pain. The truth is, I'm sorry for the bottom of my heart." But Mark will still be sentenced to 29 years in prison. Mark has been in prison since 2012 and is now 30 years old. Mark went up for parole in February 2024, but was denied for 3 years for unsuitability, which he will most likely go see the board again in 2027. He will try to get another chance for parole and to be released. Mark took a man that many loved and admired, and it was felt in the city. People like Looney helped reduce the grip of gangs in some neighborhoods, and Looney was one of the biggest people intervening in the urban communities of Los Angeles. His past gang life didn't define his future, and he went on the right path. And even in his last moments of life, he was trying to make a change and protect his community in the right way. This will conclude this episode. If you haven't already, check out my previous episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.